Okay, we're coming to our final segment on motivational interviewing, where we're going to take a closer look at planning. And so it's the kind of fourth phase in our process of motivational interviewing. And so we've kind of got these two big pieces to motivational interviewing. We've got the values, the spirit of MI, and for many clinicians, particularly those that are more experienced, that becomes kind of the core piece. The processes focuses on kind of the skill sets and the pragmatic piece of it. Once you start to kind of get kind of a handle on that, I think new clinicians tend to focus on the techniques. But it's really kind of the values that drive everything in motivational interviewing. So it's kind of this sort of balance between the two. Now, when it comes to planning, the thing that motivational interviewing is doing, and I've said this before, is that it's really holding off on planning until the client is ready to do that. The criticism that motivational interviewing makes of a lot of clinical conversations is that we jump in too quickly into planning, into deciding what the problem is, focusing too early, and then trying to fix it too early. And that writing reflex of clinicians is always getting in the way. I've done lots of training with motivational interviewing, and the biggest trouble for clinicians is just to hold off on that fix-it response. So planning is actually not that difficult, I think, for most clinicians. It's something that comes fairly naturally. And so really the message is in MI is just kind of hold off on it until you're really sure the client is ready to make a change. Now, if the client comes in and they're ready to embark on a plan, you don't have to worry about it. Just jump into it. But for many clinical situations, that's not the case. And so what we're trying to do in the planning is, continue to develop the commitment to change and formulating a specific action plan. So first of all, we're looking for signs of readiness. Is the client ready to make the change? Are they ready to make that jump from evoking their reasons for change to let's get on with it? So you want to be looking for more change talk. You don't want to feel like you're always having to pull out the change talk. The change talk should be coming more naturally. The client is talking about why it's important for them, why they need to do that, what kinds of things they could do to the change talk. And so they're kind of in more that preparatory stage of change. The sustained talk, the reasons for not changing is diminishing. And they're sort of kind of resolved. They're imagining themselves kind of in that kind of change state. And they start asking more specific questions about how to go about making a change, or what other clients have experienced, or they start to sort of tap into your expertise. So a simple way to just kind of start it off is kind of go with kind of a key question of you're starting to hear all these different sort of reasons for change. You've done a summary. The client's on board with that summary. So where does this leave you? So what are you thinking about doing at this point? I'm wondering what you might decide to do. So some kind of sort of basic question, and then just kind of wait for the client and see where they go with that, and it'll give you a sense of kind of okay, they're ready to kind of make a change. Now, in terms of commitment, I think in Bill Miller's book, he calls it calling out the cat. So the backward darn cats here. So questions: are you willing to give that a try? Are you going to do it? How would you like to get ready? What do you think you'll do? I mean there. What would be the first step? When do you think you'll go? So getting very specific, kind of nailing down the pieces of it, but always kind of keeping that commitment talk going. Now, Bill Miller, I think, adds in some things that I think are also kind of useful, because one of the problems with making a change is sticking to it. So it's one thing to say, yes, I'm I want to get physically fit. I want to be more physically active. But and we often get started on these things, but sticking to it is often kind of a key issue. And so exploring reluctance and problem solving. So up until now we've said, stay away from that fix-it piece of it. But now we're saying, okay, you seem hesitant to do that. What do we need to kind of fix here? If I go to the gym, I'm not sure it's going to, people are going to look at me, or okay, well, what can we do about that? Maybe you'll go to the gym when there's less people or something. You're right. And so you start working on kind of the problems that are getting in the way. But you're at a kind of a commitment level when you're doing that. You do that too early, and it's going to support the sustained talk. One of the things that's often important in a change is a public commitment. So if you think of things like Alcoholics Anonymous or Weight Watchers, people, in AA, people get up in a meeting and say, my name is, Bill W. and I'm an alcoholic. And so, they're making a public statement about themselves, and in that is a commitment to make the change. Of course, building social support. This is the bread and butter for social workers. Building a support network around the person to help them with that, including yourself. What role are you going to have in providing support to the individual? Self-monitoring. So how are they going to monitor this change? Sometimes you have to be kind of careful here with that. So, say if a person's kind of with weight loss, going to weigh themselves, keep a chart, fair enough. If a person has an addiction issue, and you have sort of monitoring their drinking, the act of going to a piece of paper and writing down how much they drank that week may kind of trigger a desire to drink more. So you want to be a little bit careful with that. And also supportive monitoring. So that that may be your role, or the role of some other individual who kind of they kind of meet with and kind of check in with and check up on. And so there's kind of a bit of a sort of an accountability kind of thing. I'm going to report to my counselor in a week, and I'll tell them how it's going. Now, in that context, we need to sort of get our head around setbacks. So we said this in the very first video, that relapse, or MI prefers the term setbacks, is a normal part of change. And so we don't want to consider it a failure if a person doesn't stick to the commitment of, say, kind of not drinking or not exercising, or not sticking to their diabetic diet, or whatever the issue is. We don't want to say that. We want to frame that in the perspective of they weren't motivated enough, or that they failed. We want to normalize that. Setbacks are just a normal part of making a change. And what can we learn from that? And so you want to kind of create that kind of a kind of a self-compassionate view for the client around not being successful in that moment of time. Okay, well, that kind of ends kind of that piece of planning. There's obviously more that we could say about that, but I am going to kind of throw in another kind of slide here about. If you want to kind of pursue more about kind of motivational interviewing, and I'm going to put kind of a set of kind of books up there. The one on the left, this Listening Well, it's a very sort of thin book, and Bill Miller wrote this for the general public, and it's just actually on kind of listening skills. And so that first section on engagement, he's put it in a little book. I don't think it's more than I think it's substantially less than 100 pages, but it's quite thin, easy read. It might be something that you might give to a client. I've used it. I've put together talks for the general public on saying the right thing, and so I've used things out of that book and recommend that to the general public. The second book, the Motivational Interviewing, that's the reading that's tied to this course. It's quite understandable. It's not like a lot of clinical guidelines that get really technical. You can read it. You can read it more than once. I have colleagues that just, they just pour through it over and over again, and each time they look at it, they learn more. Another book is this Building Motivational Interviewing Skills. It's a workbook format, and it's I've used it with groups of people, with groups of clinicians. help. So it's got about you kind of review each of the pieces, and then it's got sort of exercises that you can do either individually or as a group. So you're probably not going to do it now, but after your degree, or if you think motivational interviewing would fit in the kind of work that you're doing, get that book and do it with some colleagues, and make kind of a learning circle with that. Anyways, I'm going to kind of end that off with a motivational interviewing. I think it's a very worthwhile model to kind of get your head around, particularly if you're working with clients where motivational, is an issue, where you're recognizing that there's difficulties for the client in it, but it's hard for the clients to make a commitment to making that change. And so it provides a really nice model to support people in change. And good luck.